what I found in these companies was that people just were like, hey, I just have a job. So we invest all this money in a process or getting the next CRM system or investing in the technology. If our people don't give a crap about their job, all that stuff is way less powerful. So it's about making sure your mission statement is clear and known. And then you have to connect the wire stories to it. That is either going to engage someone or it's going to push them away. And that's what allowed me to get success.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. How do you lead when lives depend on split-second decisions and there's no room for top-down delays? Today, we're diving deep with Marc Koehler. Marc is a former U.S. Navy nuclear submarine officer turned CEO and has empowered over 55,000 leaders through his consulting firm, Lead with Purpose. While most leadership experts offer theoretical frameworks, Marc brings the real-world experience of 35-plus years of navigating high-stakes environments where outdated command and control simply doesn't work. Discover how to spot leadership gaps before they sink your team and why building leadership at every level isn't just strategy, it's survival.
Marc, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
Oh, super excited to be here today.
We're excited as well. I think the things that you address are huge problems for any team trying to grow. And so we're going to get into that. But if you would tell the audience, what led you to join the Navy and even better, a nuclear submarine office?
Well, you guys can't tell, but I'm 6'5". So it makes the story better. June of 1986, I was studying physics at the State University of New York, an hour south of Buffalo. And this little known movie came out. It's called Top Gun. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of it, but
yes.
But anyways, I saw it 4 times in 4 days. On the 5th day, I was in the recruiting office in Buffalo, New York, go through all the tests to be a jet fighter pilot that day. And the recruiter comes out at the end and says, hey, you did great on all the tests with the exception of one. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, am I colorblind? Did I not see the horizon right? And he says, your thigh bone's 3/8 of an inch too long to sit in a jet.
Oh.
Wow. We retake the test. I get it down to 1/8 of an inch and I get disqualified. Now, I left the recruiting station. I was crushed. I was going to serve the country. I was going to, be, flying a jet Mach 2, and all of that got dashed. The recruiter, as I'm leaving the recruiting station, must have needed one more recruit. He was like, what about helicopter pilot? I was like, no. What about SEAL team? No. What about surface ship? No. He goes, what about elite nuclear submarine? And I went like this. I go, send me something on it. And
wow.
And he sent me something on it. And I was a combination of intrigued, but also intimidated. It's a really hard program. And so I call that my 1/8 of an inch story, and everyone's got an 1/8 of an inch story in their life, because had I been a jet fighter pilot, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. I wouldn't be married to him who I'm married right now. So, and that started my journey into the submarine force.
Mm-hmm.
What a story. Wow.
Yeah. I like how you frame that too. Everybody's got an 1/8 of an inch story. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the book 3 Feet from Gold.
Oh.
It has to do with the Napoleon Hill, journey and so forth. But yeah.
Well, I got to ask this. I know it's not really why we're here. We'll get into some meat, I promise. But
sure.
Was you worried about being stuffed into a tube and sank to hundreds of feet, thousands of feet below the surface of the sea?
So I was a junior at college. My mom and dad were sending me $5 a month, and the Navy's like, hey, we're going to send you $1,200 every month and pay for your college. And I did the reverse. I was like, 10-cent beer night. That's 12,000 beers a month, and I was like, there's nothing. Yeah. And just real quick, the first 2 years, you don't even see a submarine.
Wow.
So you're in training the first 2 years. Now, the day I showed up on the submarine, I was cursing the recruiter, and all the money that I'd made and all the fun times that I'd had. I was then stuck on a submarine. So.
That's fascinating. My dad actually was a ship fitter out of Charleston in the late 60s, early 70s, and worked on submarines. So of course, he was this welder, and worth the funny story, he actually joined and made the mistake of telling him he was a mechanic. And he said, I started going down these what do y'all call them? Ladders or stairs? I can't remember.
On
ship ladders. Yeah. And started going down the ladders, and he said about 6 ladders down, they're handing me these earphones, and he's like, I'm not spending 4 years down here. And he said he told the guy, I'm not a mechanic, I'm a welder. And he had only welded like 3 or 4 times in his life, and the guy yells at him, get up deck. And so the rest is history. But so anyway, the government right here. Let's get into the meat of this, Mark, because it's clearly taught you so many things that now you've taught thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of leaders. And it's something I'm very interested in. Leadership and building leadership is the key to everything.
Yeah. So what was it, Mark, that took you from submarine and the things that you learned in that submarine to decide once you came out of that, okay, these things can actually apply to leadership and move it from an outdated version of command and control, like you say, to a more modern day version of what you teach? Give us the thought process of this is when it clicked for you.
Yeah. So I got out after 5 missions at sea. We were out at sea 10 months of the year. So, imagine that. So I got out and I fell into doing turnaround work. So I was a turnaround CEO for companies 50 to about 1,000 people. They were having some type of challenge. I never went into a company that was like, hey, it's perfect. Why don't you make it better? It was always like 9 months, we're going to run out of cash. And this is 4th generation. And my great grandfather's still living and he's counting on you. And so what happened was I tried to use business tools that I had learned on land, and those were too restrictive. And the key was when I saw that they were too restrictive, I had nothing to lose or everything to lose. I just went back to my time in the submarine force, and it forced me to look at the framework and the environment we were in. 110 people, average age 23 years old, $1 billion nuclear submarine, most advanced piece of equipment in the world, 10 months of the year underwater. How did we get everyone to, complete missions critical to national security? And when I started peeling everything back, there were a couple things that were keys to this. First is I was able to realize that everyone on the submarine was described as a leader and everyone viewed themselves as a leader. So we didn't have like 10 people with 100 employees underneath it. We had 110 leaders. And these two, if they were competing against each other, which one's going to win in the long run? It's one where everyone's a leader. The reason we had that, 600 feet below the surface of the ocean, when a fire breaks out in the engine room, the person responsible for leading the team to put out the fire, the person closest to the fire when it breaks out. Mm-hmm. So we just need to know whether you've been on board for 3 days or 3 years. We need to know whether you could step in, step up, and lead. Like that was number one, that mindset of, hey, everyone is a leader. Second was we were all deeply connected to the mission. There was never any confusion about what mission we were on. Never. All 110 of us knew exactly the mission that we were on. And so knowing those two things and knowing that there was a 1-page captain's orders that ran the entire submarine that anyone could look at and go, oh, here's the mission. And then here's the different departments and what everyone needs to do to make sure the mission comes true. That simple piece of paper is what I took and then started doing turnarounds with. And so I went to tremendous simplicity. And I found that in the submarine force, we were working in complexity. And so we actually operated it in tremendous simplicity. And it was through that first success that I had in creating a 1-page captain's orders. People were clear on the mission. I came in and said, everyone's a leader. I was like, okay, what worked 600 feet below the surface of the ocean works fantastic on land. And it just needs to be shifted and adjusted a little bit. So it was frankly out of pain of wanting to be successful in that first turnaround that chose me to go back to the submarine force and go, hey, there needs to be a new way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm all on board so far, and I'm loving it. This is incredible. My question from experience on land and with small organizations, but yet ones that could top 100 people, sure. be hitting on that. On the submarine, you have, especially a submarine, and correct me when I'm wrong on this, right? Everybody's volunteered to be here, including the cook.
Yes.
Is that right? So you've got an automatic buy-in. What did you find in great grandpa's company in 4 generations with entitlement. And this is a huge question, right? Yeah. And then all the way down to the janitor, like how you had to run into that, because isn't that somewhat of a sickness these days? I mean, this affluence or entitlement, like how did you address that? You had to run into that, right?
Yeah. So I think almost all the places that I went into, and we do this test with a leadership team done with over 500 companies. We ask them 4 key questions. What's your mission statement? What are your top 5 values? What are your top 3 annual goals? And what's the vision of the company 5 years in the future? And we ask them to do that. They can't talk to one another, and they do it, and they have 5 minutes to complete that. Guess how aligned they are on a scale of 0 to 100% on those 4 key things. Guess how aligned they are?
I bet not at all.
Yeah, 9%.
Wow.
Like, would you climb Mount Everest with a team that's only 9% aligned? You just wouldn't.
No.
And so when I went in, there was confusion about what the mission statement was. And as the speed of business and, you're marketing experts, like your message has to be simple, clear, concise, and you have to repeat it over and over and over again. And so we got down to going like, hey, this is who we are and this is what we stand for. Everyone would know it, and then everyone would feel it. And that would either attract people more towards it, but some people go like, hey, this isn't the place for me. And that was fine too. Let's find a place where you can go like, hey, I love where I work. I get up every morning and do that. So it was about clarity first. And the second thing, to answer your question, how did we get to it? We went away from all the processes and I'm a process junkie, love processes and procedures. I'm a master black belt in Lean Six Sigma. It was about the stories of how what they were doing connected and impacting and making a difference in a human's life. Mm-hmm. I'll just share with you one quick story. I became an interim turnaround CEO for a specialty wire manufacturing company. I found out 14% of the wire was being returned every single month. This is a 4th generation. And what I found is that there's no common process that the operators are using to manufacture the wire. So I'm like, fantastic. I'm going to fix this problem. I'm a master black belt in Lean Six Sigma. Gather all the operators one day in the room. We produce this 9-step beautiful manufacturing process. We train on the process. We post it on the machines. My expectation is returns are going to drop to less than 5% in 2 months. They dropped down to 12%. I remember frustrated by this. I'm walking through the plant one day trying to figure out what's going on. And I look over and one of the operators is producing this super thin piece of wire. So just out of curiosity, I go over to him, I go, where's that wire going? And he goes, I don't know. Call over the head of manufacturing. Oh, that's going in a pacemaker. The operator goes, oh. Now my 9-step process isn't working, but I got a reaction out of the operator. I go over to the other operator across the way. I go, where's that wire going? Same thing. I don't know. Oh, that's going in the Mars rover mission. I mean, they were doing, and that person goes, oh, we went around to all the operators that day. None of them knew where the wire was. The next day we went around 40% knew. The next day we went around 60% knew. We changed the process from a 9-step process to a 10-step process. First step of the process, where is the wire going? Mm-hmm. Returns dropped from 12% to 3%.
Wow.
So what we had done is we had intentionally we call it a connect the wire story. And, what is it that you're doing and how does it link up to making a difference in the world? And you look, BrandFace, you do this all the time, so you get it. What I found in these companies was that people just were like, hey, I just have a JOB. Mm-hmm. So we invest all this money in a process or getting the next CRM system or investing in the technology. If our people don't give a crap about their job, all that stuff is way less powerful. So it's about making sure your mission statement is clear and known. And then you have to connect the wire stories to it. That is either going to engage someone or it's going to push them away. And that's what allowed me to get success.
Like what you're hearing? Hit that subscribe button and learn how you can change how you're seen and charge what you're worth.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Like I love it. I love it. I read a story years ago, I think by C. Everett Koop, and he sort of likened that to he walked up on a construction site and they were building a church, and he goes up to the brick guy and he goes, "What are you building?" And he's like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm laying brick." And he goes over to the carpenter. He's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, I'm building a doorway." And he goes to the guy that's mixing the concrete, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he looks up and he says, "I'm building a cathedral." is everything. Totally changed like the thought process. And then you can get the buy-in, right? I love this stuff.
Yeah.
Mark.
Well, let me go back to the buy-in for a second, because I think that's where a lot of like business owners, entrepreneurs that are listening to us kind of get stuck right there. Okay. So it's in branding, we teach self-selection, right? It's like, put your brand out there, be authentic, tell your story, talk about your mission. And the people that belong there will automatically, organically be attracted to that. And if they're not, they can self-select out, right? Self-select in, self-select out. So how many people does a business generally have to go through before they get to those people that really have that buy-in? Because sometimes you put the right message out, you get them in, they just want to get a job or be part of what they think it is, and then get inside and it's like, wow, that's not me at all. Yeah. So is that a common thing going through a lot of people to get to that? Or is it more like, no, if you just define it well enough on the front end, you're going to get those people?
I think, if you go to Gallup employee engagement, it hasn't changed much in the last 20 years. Like 18% of people are rowing in the wrong direction and they don't love their job. Another 50% are apathetic. Sometimes they like their job, sometimes they don't. And 30% are really engaged. And I found that the biggest thing that unlocked this tremendous human potential that sits inside every single one of us is getting really clear on the mission. And I would tell you, a lot of those people who are yellow, they would turn around, they'd turn into green, and they would start pushing the boat forward faster. And then the red ones, what I found is that they felt so uncomfortable because there was such accountability to like, hey, here's what we're doing. And it's like, hey, I'm not excited about that. A lot of times in the first 3 to 6 months, that would get rid of all of those people, or they would have to turn around. So I think one of the things I see that leaders do, we overlook this. We just go, oh yeah, we did a mission statement. It's 42 words long. I paid someone a bunch of money to do it. And it's like, who can repeat it? And no one can repeat it. So what I say is, don't overlook this. And then if you want to know how often you should repeat it, I was listening to John Denver's Thank God I'm a Country Boy. And at the end of that song, I knew exactly what the song name was, even if I just heard it for the first time. Because in 3 minutes and 18 seconds, he said, thank God I'm a country boy 21 times. And you can listen to any song and you just got to, people should be like, oh no, here comes Mark. He's going to talk to us about the mission statement. Oh, that's when you know you're doing it enough. So
repetition equals recall.
Yeah. So yes. I think to answer your question, the biggest thing that people overstep is like, oh, I already did the mission statement, but no one knows it. So you gotta use a different format. And then all the statistics in and around it, people stay 80% longer for 5 years if they know the mission statement, feel connected. They're 67% more productive, 23% more profitable. All of those things can add on to it.
Yeah, there's so many variables to it, to creating that magic, right? Do you find that there needs to be a dynamic personality in leadership at some point to really make the difference? You're a dynamic personality, you can tell right off, and you just exude the type of thing that people want to follow. Is that a prerequisite? Is that a have to? Because especially in second, third, fourth generation companies, that's not always a guarantee. Grandpa might have been the most magnetic human being on earth, and great-great-grandson is the dud that just can't barely come in the door, right? Yeah. Do you think that's a prerequisite or no?
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think I always say, people ask me all the time, is leadership something that's learned, or is it something that people are born with? And my answer is it's yes to both of those, but with one caveat. I don't think a few people are born with leadership. I think each and every single one of us is born with a leadership toolkit inside. And my experience has been that it's not what we don't have, it's what we don't use. Mm-hmm. And we might use it in a different manner. I might come across more like this, but I got to tell you, I've met some people who you would say are the most boring people in the world. And they are some of the greatest leaders. Look at Paul O'Neill, who turned around Alcoa with one simple thing they were going to focus on. And they almost threw him out. They're like, Wall Street's like, what are you going to focus on? And they're waiting we're going to do an acquisition and stuff. He goes, we're going to focus on safety. And it was just that dogged determination.
Yeah, where's the profit in that, right? Yeah.
Right. The story is, I don't know if you heard it. The story is people, the Wall Street people, they left the meeting. They're calling their people, they're like, sell the stock. It's going to tank, right? But it's that dogged persistence, persistent consistency, and dogged determination. And look, it does help if you have some energy, but I don't find that that's a prerequisite.
Yeah. More importantly, like you said, dogged consistency, just persistent right. every day.
Exactly.
Every day. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So one, we're one more big question for you, and then we'll end and let you tell people how they can learn more, Marc. But what's the most surprising resistance you encounter when, let's say, you're going in and you're trying to help this corporation, shore up their leadership, and they have this hierarchy type of approach to leadership, and yours is basically everyone needs to be a leader. What's the biggest resistance you find?
Yeah, so two things. I'm following the steps of a bunch of other people who went in and probably botched it up. And they're just like, oh no, here comes the flavor of the day consultant. He's a nice guy. He was in a submarine. He's too tall to be in a submarine. So I think that's one of the big things. The second thing is the mindset that leaders have, and this is from my generation, is that when we get into a leadership role, we have to be involved in every single decision that needs to be made. And we feel like we're serving people if we just answer all of their questions. And with the speed of business continuing to accelerate every single day, you don't have enough time in the day to be involved with so many more decisions that need to be made. So I think the one block is just going in and following the footsteps of others. I think the second block is from leaders. We find that the biggest challenge to shifting to a more dynamic organizational framework, well, that's more matrix, not hierarchy, more matrix type of organizational framework, is the need to feel feel that we have to be involved in every single decision, and we don't. All we are is we're the person who's supposed to make sure that we go, oh, you have an expertise, you have an expertise. Let's bring those together and help solve the problem and manage the change. And so I think the biggest problem is the leader themselves giving up control of decision making.
Yeah, I think you're so right. And I think on the flip side, and many times is putting myself into positions and real life positions sometimes, as you fix like buy-in, then a lot of times that probably gives upper management a lot more confidence that they can just hand this off. Wouldn't you agree? Like,
oh yeah,
you start having that symbiotic relationship instead of, a lot of times leaders try to control things because they don't trust it's actually going to get done. And maybe they don't trust in a lot of ways because they don't have the buy-in. And then, like you've said, I believe everybody can. And when they do, then it provides an opportunity to let them. Yeah.
Just real quick, like the percentage of decisions that a captain of a U.S. nuclear submarine is involved in on a daily basis, there's 130 crew members on board, average age 23 years old, 30 millennials leading 100 Gen Z. So the what do you think the percentage of decisions the captain is involved in on a daily basis?
I'm going to guess low, just from the setup, but
less than 1%.
Oh, wow.
Although the captain knows every answer to everything, all they're doing is asking questions. Hey, what do you think about that? Hey, what do you think about that? And he's taken through that conversation, guided decision making. He's taking and transferring his knowledge to the people down. So a lot of times, So the captain of a submarine is working 99% on the business of the submarine, only 1% in it. That's the framework is that. And people always say, how do I do that? I go, hey, have you ever taught someone how to ride a bicycle? Take that approach. I didn't start my 3 daughters. I didn't start them on the 10 speed on a downhill. It was simple questions. And then once they got confidence, then we ratchet it up.
The training wheels off, right?
Same thing with decision making. Start with really small things and then tell people when they make the decision, hey, it's a great decision. And then recognize them in front of others. And other people go, oh, Marc recognized, even though they failed a couple times, they got the third one right. I mean, that's when you start building trust, and then it's just momentum. And it's fantastic to see this potential that sits inside every single one of us just like flourish and come out. Oh, it's so exciting.
That is exciting.
Yes, it is. Well, Marc, it's been such a pleasure having you. We always pull 3 takeaways here. I actually had 5, and I removed 2 of them, but because we want you to come back.
Yeah.
All right. We'd love to have you back sometime. But the takeaway number 1 from our conversation with you today is that everyone is a leader and everyone should be deeply connected to the mission and feel that sense of responsibility and accountability.
Mm-hmm. And number 2, 1-page captain's orders. Get clear on the mission. Stay clear on the mission.
Yep. Number 3, connect that wire. Where is it going? Right. Those are 3 really poignant things that came out of today. And we thank you so much for sharing those with us. It really is. I'm very serious. We would love to have you back.
I'd love to come back.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we'll close out today by asking you to please share with our audience where they can learn more about you and how to hire your consulting company.
Yeah. So you can go to leadwithpurpose.com, and Marc Koehler speaks.com is my keynote speaking site. If you want to create your own 1-page captain's orders, we have a free version of it. You can go to leadwithpurpose.com and you can create your own version. We'll walk you through how to create that 1-page captain's plan. So, and thanks so much for having me here today. Oh, and all the socials, I'm supposed to say at Marc Koehler Speaks on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn.
Okay. That's awesome. And we'll make sure all that information's in the show notes for the listeners. Marc, you're a breath of fresh air, I gotta say, because it's amazing things can be done with right leadership, and you really bring into focus the potential of the leader in all of us. And I think that came out today. I hope it did, to at least somebody out there struggling with the very issues that we talked about. And like Tanya said, we'd love to have you back and continue this conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here.
Ready to change how you're seen and charge what you're worth? If you're not getting enough opportunities to meet with ideal customers, or the prospects you're meeting with just aren't ideal, it's most likely your brand that's holding you back. So if you're a coach, consultant, or expert who is on the rise, you need our ultimate guide to a freedom-based brand. Download it free now at BrandFaceGuide.com.